Hey guys, welcome. Today we are going to be painting and applying decals to our Takom half-track, the Sd.Kfz 250-1. So if you follow this channel, if you have watched the build video, you'll notice that there's a pretty decent gap in time before we were able to get to our finished product, at least before weathering, that you have here in front of you. And there's a couple reasons for that. Every once in a while, there just seems to be a model that things don't go right, and you have a lot of corrective work to do. Part of it, I did have some fit issues and things during the building stage. There were some instructional errors, but that's not really what happened here. Uh, Part of it, maybe user error, fit error, I'm not really sure. I've heard from both camps different things, but before we get to that finished product, we are going to be priming it. And this was thing number one that kind of went wrong during this stage. And I am done using Ammo by MIG's one-shot primer. It is such a good primer when it comes out of your airbrush. You have to spray it at a pretty high, I think like 30 psi, something like that, like pretty high. And it's supposed to be out of a decently thick nozzle. I'm a little under what I can do psi and nozzle wise, so it doesn't really work. And it didn't work, and it clogged my airbrush for the last time, so I don't know. I was able to get the tracks done, but as you can see, I had to go to Tamiya's NATO Black as our primer coat. Now, this is, yes, it is black, but it is very similar to the German gray that we're going to be painting this. And I don't want this kit to just look dark gray. It ends up looking a lot darker than I wanted it to, and we will get to that as well. But you can see on the sprocket there, the Ammo by MIG, that primer just, that's I think when it clogged the airbrush, and it took me a long time to clean that out. It doesn't clean well with the thinner, it doesn't clean well with water or really anything. It's just, it's a real pain once it gets built up in there. So after we have that primed, I've gone ahead and that's XF54. That is the light sea gray. Again, I wanted to kind of brighten this model up a little bit. It is going to be gray. Yes, we do have some nice accessories, as you saw, that are going to go onto it to kind of change the colors a little bit, bring out some different colors, but overall the vehicle is going to be gray. So I did that undercoat and a very light coat of the German gray. I did try to go heavier on the panel lines, although I have a single action airbrush, sprays in one width, so it's not the easiest, but I was actually extremely happy with the way that it turned out, which is a little bit unfortunate, but neither here nor there. We'll get past it. This is what I had, and this is what I wanted to move forward with. So we get that primed up, or not primed up, sorry, clear coated and ready for decals. Now there's a couple really small decals that go on the inside, and up to this point you have to do the sub-assemblies because you need to get those decals in there. They're very difficult to see, but you can still see them a little bit. Now, the painting instructions, there really aren't any painting instructions with this kit, and maybe I should have done a little bit more research, just reference photos, other model kits, whatever. But I saw someone paint the inside white, and I thought it looked a lot better. I just followed the Takom picture guide, and it had it gray. So if you're building this kit or interested in it, I think you have a little creative liberty. I don't know if they actually were white or gray, but you can kind of do your own thing there and make it look a little bit different. So nothing special with the decals. The decals in this kit were nice. They're not too thick. They're not, paper thin. Just doing our regular old Tamiya mark fit. Try to get a little bit under the decal and then a little bit on top. I think I only had to do like 1 or 2 coats, There's nothing for them really to sink into, really anywhere on this kit. They don't go over any panel lines or anything, so you don't have to get too crazy. But this is a good angle to show you the original paint job that I had, that I was very, very happy with. It's light. It's not too heavy on that German gray, and we have it looks like it's been baking in the sun. Of course, something would happen because it's one of the single tone paint jobs that I was the most happy with at the time. I'll put on the license plate there. Classic European license plate. This is really the only area of the kit where a decal kind of goes over something. And definitely give those a little bit of time to set up before you put the mark fit. Sometimes when you go to apply the mark fit, you'll end up moving the decal. And once that mark fit gets on the decal, you don't want to keep moving it. You have, maybe 10-20 seconds where you can, but after that, you risk kind of tearing the decal and things like that. So try to get it so you can let it sit. And now, obviously, as you can see into the back, I still have not attached the top to the bottom. And that is really due to the fact that I wanted to finish the inside, and I already had a dry fit issue with the back and the top and the bottom going together all at once. I could put any of the two together and they fit really well, but once I put all three together is where I had that issue. So I knew that already at this point there was going to be a little bit of probably extra work that we had to do. Maybe in retrospect, I wouldn't have put the exterior decals or painted even the exterior. Probably be better to do it that way, looking back at it, but I kind of trusted that maybe I could get some glue and clamping to work in my favor, but I was wrong. So we'll mark fit. I applied the decals to the back as well. We'll mark fit these license plates. Decals on the side. There are some very small ones on the fenders as well. I showed putting one on. I waited to put mark fit on those. I just put a tiny bit because when you get to those small decals, you do risk them floating a little bit. So there you can see the gap right there between the top and the bottom. And now obviously, if I pinch it together, what was happening was one side would look perfect and the other side would have this big gap. So I've had that before many times. It happened on the Tamiya Crusader, if you watch that video. And basically I glued the front end down, waited for it to dry, and then clamped the back end, and that was fine. So again, still the optimist in me was still waiting to see if that was going to happen. It didn't. I had to apply putty around the cracks, and I use Ammo by Migs. They have a new putty, like surfacer, and it comes in, thick, medium, and thin. And I was very, very happy because it has a very detailed applicator. I was able to get into that seam line. I did glue it first, obviously, and then put that thin. I think it took 2 or 3 kind of coats, and then was able to sand it, but I had to repaint it because of the sanding. So my kind of idea to come back and get a little bit of that lighter detail, we're going to brush paint. I did about 60% German gray and about 40% just flat white. Mix it in the palette, and that's what we're dry brushing on right now. So I left it a little bit wetter than I probably normally would. One, I wanted to accentuate the details, but I also just wanted to get just a touch of lighter paint in some of those areas, because it is looking a lot darker than it did look. But happy with how the dry brushing came out. It did lighten things up a little bit and kind of pull out those details. You could do this with a normal brush. This is, I think it's an Ammo by Mig dry brush, or it's AK Interactive, I forget. There are a bunch of companies that make dry brushing specific brushes. They tend not to get as beat up when you do it. So if you have a couple bucks to spare in your next order, I would recommend getting one. If not, just use an old brush. It works just the same. They just might not last as long. And so at this point, I've attached all the stowage. Again, if you followed any other builds, you can see I once again used the paint markers on those tools and on the bags as well. So I didn't specifically have, again, there's nothing in the paint guide that tells you what to paint what. So I kind of just guessed. Obviously I have the wood color, the dark aluminum, things like that. But when it came to the bags, you'll see once in the next video when I attach the tarp on the top, I did that green Dunkelgelb color. And then I used, I think that's buff or something on the side. I forget exactly which one it was, but we got the tracks, the wheels, everything like that put on. So the other thing that happened to me with this build is I primed, painted all of the wheels, and I went to put them on, and I realized that the 4 total outer wheels were missing. So I had to go back, dig through the pile of sprues that I had put in the trash, get them out, repaint them. So this was just one of those kits that it was a lot of work. It was a lot more work than it had to be. And as you can see there where I'm holding the brush, I wasn't able, because I had to mask the decals because I already put them on. Again, hindsight, 20/20 vision, get it. But we're going to have to do a little bit of blending there. At this point, I really just want to finish this kit. I think that we can not call it hiding those details, but we can cover up those details that we kind of messed up. So we'll see what the weathering stage brings us. But I have another 250-1. It's Dragon's ammunition carrier. So this won't be the last tiny half track that I build. So kind of just want to move on at this point, right? So at some point, good enough has to be good enough. And oftentimes I find that in the end, I look at it and I say, why did I get frustrated, right? It looks great. So that's the finished kit. We're going to go ahead and do a coat of Tamiya's TS80 over the top, which always is a little bit risky. I have never had a problem with TS80 over Tamiya decals. I recently had a very slight problem over the Cartograph decals from Airfix. But I will tell you, I had zero problem with them over the Takom decals. I think they're a little thicker than the Cartograph, so we'll go ahead, we'll get that clear coated. If you guys have made it this far, thank you for watching. I would ask you to please like and subscribe to the channel. We will build many more models, as well as have some other content, how-tos and things like that once I get around to them. But I'll leave you with the finished model here for the last minute, as is customary. And we'll see you on the weathering video, which will follow up probably in a week or two. Once we get this, we won't go too crazy with this one. At least that's my intention at first. But we'll separate it into kind of weathering the inside and then weathering the outside, panel line washes, some dust, dirt, things like that would have been present. I'm kind of thinking Stalingrad-ish. And I do have some pictures to go along with that. So that's my inspiration. And again, thank you guys for watching. See you on the next episode.